Is that, and that we are not in control of setting those standards?
We need to understand that we have the standard course of study, which is every subject but math and English language arts. And yes, Common Core is a copyrighted set of standards by the Chief State School Officers and the Governors Association.
Okay. All right. Next, I'd like you to share your thoughts on the adoption process. Do you believe North Carolina and other states were compelled to adopt the Common Core standards? Why or why not? So first we'll let Mr. Falkenberg answer this question.
A lot of people out there say that the federal government forced states to do this. We don't feel that way at all. However, when there is money involved with Race to the Top funds and there's waivers with No Child Left Behind, there's incentives for states to do that. One of our sticky points was during the Race to the Top portion of when we were applying for that grant, the governor of Virginia wrote a letter to the Secretary of Education that said, we just developed new standards and we feel that these standards are better than Common Core. However, we don't want to accept Common Core because we think we might be taking a step backwards. However, we don't think we're going to get this grant money. I don't think they ever received a response back, but Virginia never received Race to the Top money. For North Carolina, we applied for Race to the Top 1 in January of 2010, 6 months before the Common Core standards were even released, and then officially released. Then we did not get Race to the Top 1, and we applied for Race to the Top 2, and that was May 27th, 2010, 4 days before Common Core was officially released. And fast forward 4 days later, on June 1st of 2010, Common Core is finally released to the public. The State Board of Education adopted it on June 3rd. So they were really only out there officially for 2 days. We ended up receiving the Race to the Top grant in August that year. If that's a coincidence, we had a great application. We also did a lot with developing our charter schools, lifting that cap, as well as we were in a good position, I think, technology-wise in the state. But I do think that we weren't forced into it, but it was a position that we did accept the standards around the right time.
Thank you. Dr.
The Constitution of North Carolina puts the State Board of Education in charge of administration and supervision of public education in our state. And as a part of that administrative responsibility is to adopt standards which the State Board of Education believe that will move this state forward where our students will have success. During the time that we applied for the Race to the Top, North Carolina had begun in 2007 and 2008, and for some of you who have been in education for a while, you know that we had a commission that said we need to revise all of our standards. And so that process involved many, many people across North Carolina to give us feedback about what should be the standards in all subjects, including mathematics and English language arts. The Race to the Top grant really was a godsend to North Carolina because the General Assembly, for good reasons, because our economic situation was pitiful, had eliminated all professional development in the budget. So when we wrote the grant for Race to the Top, we committed ourselves to have career and college-ready standards. And because we had been involved along the way with the revisions of the Common Core standards process, and because we had gotten so much input from people across the state about what should students know and be able to do, it really was a fairly easy decision for the State Board of Education to adopt the Common Core, because during our process of review, we saw that what colleges and universities, what business people had said to us, and what teachers in the classroom had said to us in the process that we had run parallel, that when we compared what was a part of the Common Core standards and what was a part of the feedback that we got, that it really wasn't worth an ounce worth of difference between the two. So the board very easily made the decision to adopt. We got support from our superintendents, from our teachers, from our principals associations, from the North Carolina Business for Education. So it was a very easy thing to do to make that transition to the Common Core standards. I want to address what Ms. Falkenberry said about Virginia. The governor of Virginia wrote that letter, but Virginia decided not to apply for Race to the Top. And then when you go to the website of Virginia, the Department of Education, you will see that it has a part that says the alignment of Virginia standards with the Common Core standards. And that shows you, if you would go to that website, you will see that there is close alignment between the standards in Virginia and the standards that were adopted ultimately by North Carolina. And one of the reasons why Dr. Wright, who is the Chief State School Officer in Virginia, has said to me over and over, one of the reasons why they didn't pursue that path of going with the standards is that they had spent millions of dollars and lots of effort to develop those standards. So they did not want to say, okay, we've developed these standards and then, oh, by the way, we're going to go with new standards. So it was a monetary decision of Virginia not to move in that direction. It is very important to recognize that North Carolina has the authority and can exercise that authority. The state board can exercise its authority anytime to change any standard. However, there is a process, a policy that is in place with the State Board of Education about how you go about changing standards, because we want them to be in place to get feedback so that the next time we revise or need to revise, we will have the benefit of that information. And just to show as an example of how North Carolina actually revised the standards, or added to the standards, I should say, was the last session of the General Assembly. The Common Core standards did not speak to cursive writing. And the General Assembly decided that it was important for all of our children to learn how to write well in cursive. I supported that bill, and it was passed, and immediately we went to work making sure that that was a part of the Common Core standards in English language arts at the elementary level.
Thank you, and I think